Hi everyone, good evening. So for tonight, I'm going to report to you about crisis intervention as one of the theoretical models and approaches here in social work practice with groups. So to start, crisis intervention in simplest terms. A crisis intervention is an immediate and short-term emergency response to mental, emotional, physical, and behavioral distress. Crisis interventions help to restore an individual's equilibrium to their biopsychosocial functioning and minimize the potential for long-term trauma or distress. Crisis intervention is an emergency first aid for mental health. So, ayun, crisis intervention, tinutulungan natin na ma-restore, maibalik yung pagiging normal ng isang individual galing doon sa initial reaction niya sa nangyari na crisis. So, to further understand what crisis intervention is, let us first know what crisis is. So, yung mga una or common na naisip natin pag sinabing crisis is usually chaos, catastrophe, disaster. But here, crisis is upset in steady state. Steady state, which means yun yung pag-okay tayo, functioning and nag-work lahat ng bagay. And it becomes upset because of undesired events. Crisis is a state of disequilibrium. Crisis, an emotional reaction to a threatening life event. Emotional reactions can be high level of anxiety, feelings of depression and mourning, shame, guilt, anger, hostility, and confusion. So, crisis, these are acute events or mga biglaang pangyayari, which includes serious illness, trauma, death of loved ones, natural and man-made disasters, and violent crisis. Next is intervention. Intervention is the action of becoming intentionally involved in a difficult situation in order to improve it or prevent it from getting worse. So as social workers, dito tayo pumapagitan tayo sa kliyente na nakakaramdam ng distress at sa pangyayari na nagdulot nito upang hindi na lumala ang distress or at maging mas better yung state ng kliyente. Crisis theory. Crisis theory is known to have developed out of work in a public health setting and orientation with a truly interdisciplinary approach involving medicine, social work, psychology, and psychiatry. So, kaya interdisciplinary, madaming fields ang nag-aaral at gumagamit nito, basta concerning the public and their health, mentally man yan or physically. Next is, the theory is based on the idea that there is no such thing as a problem-free state and life is a series of recurring developmental crises. So, yung idea nito is that sa buhay walang kahit ano o kahit sino man ang walang problema. Lahat nakaka-experience ng crisis. This theory is useful in dealing with individuals and families in situation of urgency and stress. Again, crisis intervention. This is the mode of brief treatment. This is specific action by a worker in relation to human process in order to induce change. This is the conscious interference or yun nga kanina nabanggit, we become intentionally involved into the client's affairs to move the client towards its goals or to introduce clarification. It involves crisis-oriented, time-limited work, usually 2 to 6 weeks in duration. Syempre, it depends doon sa severity ng crisis. To be really effective, crisis intervention should be available within 24 to 72 hours after application or referral for assistance. So, moving on to goals. The goal is the restoration of social functioning. As with every approaches in social work, this is the ultimate goal that we have, restoration of social functioning. So, ayun, this is for the enhancement of the coping capacity of the individual. Next is understanding of the relevant precipitating events. Bakit ba ito nangyari? Kasi if hindi natin maintindihan or hindi nila maintindihan, baka mahirapan sa next stages or hindi makamove on sa pangyayari. Next is identification of remedial measures. So, malalaman dito kung ano-ano yung mga pwede nilang gawin or yung mga options na meron sila na available sa community upang mag-improve. Next is recognition of connection. Connection between the present and the past life experiences nila. Na baka ganito yung nangyayari or yung nagiging reaction nila kasi may na-trigger from the past na hindi pa nare-resolve. So, kailangan natin ma-recognize and maintindihan yon upang ma-deal natin correctly. And then next, initiation of new models of perceiving, thinking, and feeling, and developing. So, this is a goal kasi as we go along the process, may natututunan tayong bago o may na-experience na kakaiba, which may lead to innovative ways, ideas, development, solution, etc. Where is it being used? Crisis intervention is being used in admissions and emergency wards of hospitals, telephones and hotlines, walk-in centers, children and women's desks in police stations, crisis center for women and children, drug rehabilitation centers, and emergency services of public welfare agencies. Ito ay sa mga lugar kung saan pwede tayo humingi ng tulong lalo kung urgent. Usually, lagi itong available, most or even 24/7. So what are we aiming for in crisis intervention? We aim to help through assessment and intervention techniques towards adaptive resolution crisis. So assessment, knowing the facts, and mabigyan o matulungan sila by using different intervention techniques upang masolusyonan yung crisis na pinagdadaanan nila. Next is tasks for crisis intervention. First, we give concrete assistance and services and psychosocial intervention. Psychosocial intervention, yung activities na ginagamit upang ma-modify o mabago yung behavior, emotional state, or feelings ng individual. Examples nito is therapy, rehab, peer support services, etc. Crisis Intervention Stress Debriefing, or CISD. It is a specific technique designed to assist others in dealing with the physical or psychological symptoms that are generally associated with trauma exposure. It allows those involved with the incident to process the event and reflect on its impact. Debriefing and diffusing should be provided as soon as possible, but typically no longer than the first 24 to 72 hours after the initial impact of the event. So, dito minsan we will encounter people who has become numb or parang caught off guard sila during or usually after the event. Usually, pag na-trauma sila, yung makikita na lang natin na tulala. Here in CIST, tutulungan natin sila na ma-regain yung control nila sa sarili nila at ma-recover yung normal state nila. So, sabi nga kanina, it is a specific technique designed. Dito mayroon silang protocol na fina-follow. First is yung worker must assess the individual. Anong age nila, saang group sila belong, ano yung gender nila, yan yung mga possible na kino-consider. Second, we make them feel secured and safe. Third, let them vent out their thoughts and feelings. Hayaan lang natin sila maglabas ng mga nararamdaman nila. Hayaan natin na malaman nila na okay lang na yun yung maging reaction nila. I-validate natin sila. Next is debrief the individual of possible na mangyari at ma-feel pa niya. Dito pinipredict natin what else can happen. So sabi kanina na debriefing and diffusing should happen no longer than the first 24 to 72 hours after the initial impact. So, bakit? Kasi studies showed na mas immediate yung response, mas effective. And pag mas tumatagal, mas hindi siya effective. So, in addition lang, during the research, I found this 6-stage model of crisis intervention. This is the defining the problem, ensuring client safety, providing support, examining alternatives, making plans, and obtaining commitment. So, una, step 1, defining the problem. Here, we determine exactly what the problem is. Ano ba talaga yung problema? Here, this process help establish connection between worker and client. Yun nga, yung building rapport. Nabibuild yung relationship and yung trust between the client and the worker. Dito sa stage na to, very important yung active listening, open-ended questions ng worker, na magkaroon ng empathy at genuine and positive regard. So, step 2, ensuring client safety. This step involves suicide risk assessment. Nire-remove natin yung access nila to lethal means of suicide or self-harming. Yun yung mga bagay na may potential na makasakit sa sarili nila at sa worker na rin mismo. So, kunwari, nasa office, yung mga bagay na yon is example, yung scissors, paper cutter, staplers, at iba pa. Step 3, providing support. Here, crisis worker accept that the client is a person of value and communicate that they care about them. Kailangan dito maparamdam natin sa kanila na pinahahalagahan natin sila at talagang willing tayong matulungan sila. By simply talking to the client about what's going on in their life. Taking care of their basic needs. Yung basic needs na yun, syempre yung food, shelter, etc. So here, we ensure na the client has enough information to understand that there are available options for dealing with their situation. Which leads to step 4, which is examining alternatives. So, the client is encouraged to explore potential solutions. Kung ano pa yung mga pwede niya gawin na steps na pwedeng mag-improve dun sa sitwasyon niya. Next is step 5, making plans. The goal is to focus on concrete steps that can help restore client's life. The client must feel empowered by the plan. Kailangan confident siya dun sa plano na yun. And them working collaboratively is important. Of course, hindi lang basta yung worker lang, yung nagpaplano, kasama dapat doon yung client. And next is step 6, obtaining commitment. Obtaining commitment should be easy. Worker may need to write down the plan for the client to keep track of it. So, there are instances na kailangan natin isulat yung plano, yung step-by-step procedure na iti-take ng client natin para mas madali nilang matandaan at malaman yung mga susunod nilang gagawin. And follow-ups, of course, kahit after nung stages na to, lahat ng pangyayari, the worker keeps follow-ups to ensure na pina-follow yung client yung plan. So, ayun po, that ends my report for tonight. Sana may natutunan kayo and thank you for listening.